I remember the first time I met him. His name was Arvind, and he was a regular face around town, known not just for his failed business attempts, but for his tendency to keep to himself. You could see him walking around the market, his shoulders hunched, his eyes always fixed on the ground. It was like he had given up on his dreams long ago. Yet he kept going, as if out of sheer habit. Arvind had tried his hand at several businesses over the years. Everything from a small tech startup to a cafe he had opened with high hopes. But none of them had worked out. The cafe failed after only a few months. The tech company barely made it past the prototype stage. It was almost like his life was an example of how things shouldn't be done. And the whole town knew it. People said that he just wasn't cut out for business. One afternoon, I bumped into Arvind at a local charity event for children. It wasn't a place I'd expect to see him. Honestly, Arvind wasn't the charitable type. I knew this because he had often said that charity was just a waste of time. But there he was, looking slightly uncomfortable, standing at the back, watching the volunteers as they organized everything. It was a small event, hosted by a local school to raise money for underprivileged children. The organizer was Miss Anjali, a well-known teacher in the town, and she was trying to set up the event at the last minute, struggling to find volunteers. Mrs. Anjali noticed Arvind standing there and came up to him. "Arvind, I'm so glad to see you. We could really use your help. We're a little short on volunteers today. Could you assist with the event? It would mean a lot to us," she said with a bright smile. Now, I've known Arvind for a while, and I've never seen him help out at anything, let alone a charity event. But something was different that day. He hesitated, glancing around, probably hoping no one else noticed his discomfort. After a long pause, he said, "Okay, I'll help." I watched from a distance as Arvind began setting up tables and organizing the materials. He wasn't exactly enthusiastic, but he was working diligently. As the event started, I could see him interacting with the kids. Something about the way he looked at them, like he was really paying attention, was different from the person I used to see in business meetings. At the end of the day, after the event had wrapped up, Mrs. Anjali came up to him, visibly grateful. "Arvind, you did an amazing job today. Thank you so much for helping. You have no idea how much it means to us." Arvind gave a small smile, though I could tell he wasn't used to being thanked. It was then that something changed in him. Mrs. Anjali's words seemed to spark something inside him, a shift I couldn't quite explain. Over the next few weeks, I saw Arvind become more involved in the community. He started offering small amounts of his time to help with other local events, cleaning up after festivals, donating a bit of his tech skills to help local businesses set up websites, and even organizing fundraising drives for local causes. I still remember the moment when I realized what had changed. One day, I was at the same market, grabbing coffee at the cafe I frequent. Arvind walked by with a big smile on his face, dangling a stack of flyers for a local charity auction. I waved him over, curious to see how things were going with him. "Hey, Arvind, what's all this?" I asked, pointing to the flyers in his hands. "It's for a new project I'm starting. I've decided to help out with a couple of things for the local community," he said, his eyes brighter than I'd ever seen them. "But aren't you still working on your business?" I asked. Arvind laughed lightly. "That's the thing. I've realized that business isn't just about making money. It's about giving something back. I've been doing it all wrong. I've been so focused on myself and my profits that I never thought about how I could use my skills to help others." I was intrigued. "So, what's this new project?" "It's a small venture. I'm going to organize charity auctions and events to raise money for local causes. I have experience with planning events from my failed businesses, and I think I can put that to good use." At first, I didn't quite understand it. Arvind was still in debt. His previous businesses had failed, and now he was talking about charity auctions. It seemed like a far-fetched idea, but Arvind was more determined than I'd ever seen him before. He wasn't just talking about it, he was already organizing the first event. A few weeks later, I attended the charity auction Arvind had organized. I was honestly surprised at how well it turned out. The event was well planned, the turnout was good, and the community seemed genuinely supportive. People were bidding on donated items, clothes, artwork, books, and it was a huge success. That's when I truly saw a change in Arvind. He wasn't just the guy who had failed at business anymore. He had become someone who was using his skills to bring people together and help the community. He wasn't asking for anything in return. The auction raised a significant amount of money, and Arvind used that money to start a small non-profit that helped local children get the education they deserve. Arvind started making steady progress, not by focusing on profits, but by focusing on helping others. I began seeing him differently. He wasn't the same guy who had once seen business as a way to make money and escape his failures. Now, he was driven by something much bigger, a desire to give back. Months later, I ran into Arvind again at the market. This life, he was wearing a clean suit, his hair neatly combed, and he was talking to some potential sponsors for his next project. He looked like a completely different person. When he saw me, he smiled and walked over. "Hey, how have you been?" he asked, his voice full of excitement. "I've been good," I said. "It's amazing what you've done. Your non-profit is really growing. I had no idea you'd make it this far." Arvind's eyes sparkled. "You know, it's not just the business, it's the feeling of giving back, of knowing that what I'm doing is helping people. That's where the real success is. I never thought it would come this way. But I guess that's the thing. Sometimes, when you stop focusing on your own failure and start focusing on others, you end up finding success." It was at that moment that I realized how much Arvind had changed. It wasn't just his financial situation that had improved. He had transformed as a person, learning that success doesn't just come from taking, but from giving back and contributing to something bigger than yourself. Moral: true success comes not from focusing solely on yourself, but from how much you give back. When you start thinking beyond your own failures and look for ways to help others, life rewards you in ways you never expected.